She arrived 24 minutes late to a supper she had almost refused to attend, with one glove missing, a 4-year-old daughter asleep against her shoulder, and the terrible feeling that everyone in town would finally see how alone she really was. Celia Whitmore stood on Beatrice Lark's porch that cold Wyoming evening, holding little Maisie tightly while warm lamplight spilled beneath the door. She had planned to leave her daughter with Mrs. Doolan, but the old woman had fallen sick before sunset. There had been no neighbor available, no family nearby, and no time to turn back. When Beatrice opened the door, the smell of roast beef, onions, and fresh bread welcomed them from inside. At the table sat Malcolm Braddock, the reserved rancher from South Valley, a man known for surviving the brutal winter that had destroyed most of his cattle. Celia lowered her eyes. "I'm sorry. I had no one to leave her with. I understand if you would rather I go." Malcolm looked at Maisie, then at the 2 chairs waiting beside the supper table. Without saying a word, he walked to the wall, carried over another chair and placed it beside Celia's. "Then there are 3 of us tonight." Celia looked at him in surprise. There was no disappointment in his face, no forced politeness. He simply moved the plates and made room. Maisie opened her sleepy eyes. "Is there pie?" Malcolm's expression softened. "I was told there would be." "What kind?" "Apple," Beatrice answered. Maisie nodded seriously. "Then we can stay." That was the moment Celia first noticed something dangerous about Malcolm Braddock. He did not treat her, a daughter, as an inconvenience. He treated her as someone who already belonged at the table. Celia had been widowed for 2 years. Her husband, Peter, had died during a terrible winter illness, leaving her with a small house, a young daughter, and $63 hidden inside a tobacco tin. Instead of asking for charity, Celia turned the front room of her home into a sewing shop. She repaired coats, made children's clothes, altered work shirts, and eventually created wedding gowns good enough that wealthy women traveled from neighboring settlements to hire her. Malcolm understood that kind of stubborn independence. His own ranch had once held hundreds of cattle until the winter storm left fewer than 300 alive. He rebuilt slowly, repairing fences, saving hay, paying debts, and learning that surviving did not mean a man had to live alone forever. During supper, Maisie examined Malcolm's enormous hat. "Why is it so big?" she asked. "There is a lot of sky in Wyoming," he replied. "A man needs protection." Maisie studied his face. "Your head is big too." Beatrice burst into laughter. Even Celia could not stop herself. Malcolm calmly nodded. "The hat and I have reached an understanding." For the first time in years, Celia laughed without feeling guilty for it. Malcolm never tried to impress her. He asked about her sewing business, listened carefully, and never offered advice she had not requested. When Maisie fell asleep beside her plate, Malcolm quietly lowered his voice and continued listening. After supper, he walked them home through the cold street. At Celia's door, he asked, "Would you and Maisie visit my ranch Saturday? I have 3 new horses." Celia hesitated. "Both of us?" "Both," he answered simply. She watched him disappear into the darkness. For the first time since Peter's death, an empty chair inside her house did not feel quite as permanent. Saturday brought clear skies and a borrowed wagon carrying Celia and Maisie toward Malcolm Braddock's ranch. The property still carried scars from the terrible winter. Several fence posts were new, one barn window remained boarded, and the empty corral reminded Celia that Malcolm had lost far more than cattle. Yet everything that remained was carefully maintained. The surviving animals were healthy, the troughs were clean, and every gate worked properly. Malcolm showed them 3 horses, a chestnut mare, a black gelding, and a small grey mare with a white mark beneath one eye. Maisie immediately pointed at the grey horse. "That one," Celia smiled. "You have not even met the others." "I have seen them. I choose her." Malcolm crouched beside the child. "Her name is Silverbell." Maisie frowned. "Too long. I'll call her Belle." Malcolm nodded. "I believe she can survive that." He showed Maisie how to hold out her hand, and the gentle mare lowered her nose into the child's palm. Celia watched quietly. She had expected Malcolm to be good with horses. She had not expected him to be patient with a little girl. Later, beneath a cottonwood tree, they shared bread, cheese, and preserves. Malcolm had packed everything except a knife. Celia raised an eyebrow. "A rancher defeated by a loaf of bread. I made a list. Was the knife on it? First item. And I left the list at home." Celia laughed. The afternoon felt strangely peaceful. Malcolm eventually spoke about his ranch and the winter that had nearly broken him. "I spent years believing the ranch had to be perfect before I could think about anything else," he admitted. "More cattle, more land, better barns. Then one winter took most of what I built." He looked toward the fields. "I realized finished was only an excuse." Celia understood exactly what he meant. She had spent 2 years telling herself she could not want companionship because her daughter needed stability and her business needed her. Neither had ever been a complete answer. A few days later, an important letter arrived from Cheyenne. A respected dressmaker named Eudora Finch offered Celia a position with nearly twice her usual income, rooms above the shop, and the possibility of partnership. On paper, it was everything a sensible woman could want. Better materials, wealthier customers, more money for Maisie, a larger future. Yet Celia could not ignore the strange ache she felt at the thought of leaving Alder Creek. When she finally told Malcolm, he did not tell her to stay. That hurt more than she expected. "You have opinions about everything else," she said. "What do you think about this?" Malcolm was quiet. "I do not want you to go." Her heart tightened. "Then ask me to stay." He looked at her carefully. "I could ask, but I will not ask you to build your future around my needs." Celia said nothing. Malcolm continued, "I lost most of my ranch. I need help, companionship, order, but I refuse to confuse needing someone with loving them." His honesty silenced her anger. "And do you love me?" she whispered. Malcolm answered without hesitation. "I know I would miss you. I know the ranch feels different when you are there. I know I want to know what your life looks like 10 years from now. If that is not love yet, I do not know what else to call it." Celia looked away, fighting tears. Malcolm did not touch her. He simply gave her the freedom he wished he could take away. She decided to travel to Cheyenne and see the opportunity for herself. Before she left, Malcolm gave her a worn leather folder that had once belonged to his mother. "For your drawings," he said, "so your work stays protected." Celia held it against her chest. "What if I don't come back?" Malcolm smiled sadly. "Then I will be grateful I met you." And that answer followed her onto the train. Cheyenne was larger, louder, and faster than anything Celia had known in Alder Creek. The dress shop belonging to Eudora Finch stood near the busy depot, surrounded by elegant hotels, expensive fabrics, and women who could spend more on one gown than Celia earned in months. Eudora was impressed by Celia's work and offered her exactly what the letter had promised. The money was excellent, the rooms were comfortable, the position could eventually become a partnership. Yet as Celia walked through the shop, she realized something unexpected. She did not want a life where every success required leaving behind everything she had already built. Her sewing room in Alder Creek might be small, but it belonged to her. Her customers trusted her. Maisie had a home there, and somewhere beyond the hills was a quiet rancher who had never once asked her to become less independent so he could feel needed. Celia returned to Alder Creek with her decision made. Malcolm was waiting near the station, but he did not ask what she had chosen. He simply took her small case. "How was Cheyenne?" he asked. "Beautiful," she said. "And?" "Not mine." A smile slowly appeared on his face. "Then welcome home." Celia looked at him. "I did not come back because you were waiting." "I know. I came back because I realized I can build something here." "I know that too." She stepped closer. "And I realized I want someone beside me while I build it." Malcolm became very still. "Are you asking me to stay?" "No," Celia said softly. "I am asking whether you would like to build something with me." Malcolm's eyes filled with emotion. "Yes." Their relationship did not become perfect overnight. Malcolm still worked too much. Celia still insisted on carrying heavy things herself. Maisie still asked questions nobody was prepared to answer, but slowly the three of them became a family without ever pretending that love required surrendering independence. Malcolm helped Celia expand her sewing business by converting an unused ranch room into a small workshop. Celia helped him create better records for the ranch and insisted that winter preparation begin months earlier. Maisie named the grey mare Belle and informed everyone that Malcolm was her almost father long before either adult was ready for the title. One autumn evening, nearly a year after their first supper, Beatrice invited them back to the same house. The table was once again set for two. Malcolm looked at the arrangement, then smiled and brought another chair to the table. Celia laughed. "You still do that?" "It seemed important the first time." Maisie climbed into the chair. "You brought my chair too." Malcolm looked at Celia. "Some chairs become permanent." After supper, he walked Celia to the porch. The town was quiet beneath the stars. He took a small ring from his pocket, not expensive but carefully chosen, and held it between them. "Celia, I do not want to rescue you. You never needed rescuing. I want to stand beside you. I want to know your difficult days, your stubborn days, your happy days, and every ordinary day in between." Tears filled her eyes. "And Maisie?" Malcolm smiled. "Especially Maisie." Celia accepted the ring. From inside the house came Maisie's voice. "Are you two coming back? The pie is getting cold." Celia laughed through her tears. Malcolm opened the door. "We are coming." And years later, whenever Celia remembered how their story began, she never remembered the expensive supper, the ranch, or the ring first. She remembered a tired little girl, a cold winter night, and a quiet cowboy who saw an extra child at his table and simply made room. This is Nordic love stories, where the greatest frontier romances are not about rescuing someone, they are about choosing to walk beside them.